No one can be envied who can see how many times we are driven both inwardly and outwardly by the Furies. Marsilio Ficino of Florence to Lorenzo Franceschi, the son of Domenico. Pythagoras charged his disciples not to eat brain or heart. That is, they should not consume the brain with empty thoughts, nor burn out the heart with excessive cares. If all things happen by chance, they labor in vain to presume to control completely, but to manage by fixed principles of reasoning, affairs in which countless ways happened beyond reason. If all things come from fate, those who strive to avoid what is unavoidable, necessity fall more heavily into fate, for to it they are adding their own labor. Lastly, whether our affairs are said to come from chance or fate, divine providence, by reason, puts unreasonable chance in order, and gently tempers stern fate in accordance with the good. Thus, all things become ordered and good to those who willingly unite with the divine will. For these men alone, what is within the mind accords with external events, but for everyone else, at every point they are at variance. These men alone make what is necessary voluntary and appeals evil good. Just as the pure mind rejoices in universal good, so the impure mind is afflicted with every evil. Just as the greatest light plunders in and appropriates to itself all other lights, so the greatest evil on earth, an evil man, draws from all quarters every evil to himself. He brings much more onto himself than he would receive from elsewhere. Just as we are insatiable for what is good, so, in some strange way, are we almost insatiable for evil. Present evil we do not as much experience as strengthen. Past evils we seek again, future evils we seize in advance. Those do not in the future we invent. I did not need to mention the perversity of mind from which we suffer adversities. Do we not misuse prosperity that happiness itself becomes our greatest unhappiness? External success for us is no more than the point of departure from reason and law, and what is soundless of body, for us both in unsoundness of mind. Also, beauty and bodily strength often lead to the deformity and weakness of soul. Oh, how deformed we are! How often our deformed state do we set upon that which God makes beautiful. Alas! How ungrateful are to God, the giver of all good things. How frequently we condemn his works with his governance. The more our stores abound his good fruits, the more do we produce thorns and weeds within ourselves and sow them at home and abroad. And although we produce and sow bad things, we are none the less astonished if we reap the worst, and we blame the stars or God and not our own husbandry. Therefore, no one can be envied who can see how many times we are all driven inwardly and outwardly by the Furies. In your homeland it would be difficult for you to perceive who is happier than anyone else. Outside it, it would be harder still to see who is the most miserable. In both cases, the reason is almost the same. In your own country, each rejoices with the greatest joy. Here, each of us is afflicted with the greatest pain. Unless we are completely blind, we should see clearly from this that since our sowing does so badly on earth, it is not earthly but heavenly, and, if rightly cultivated, will bear heavenly fruit.